Hi, Ari. Good to speak to you, my friend. Yes. Well, first, it's great to see you, and I think this will be the first opportunity for the people who listen in and watch. That we're talking to somebody from down under, as in Australia. I know this will come out in a few weeks, but Australia's in the news this end. One for the cricket and for the tennis, but we won't go there. It's quite big, but. I was very interested in both your reading your book, which is called Unlock the Sales Game, and I was really interested in chatting to you because you can highly regard it. But before we get into your journey, reason why I was really interested in this is COVID has changed a lot of things. How we now sell, how we like to be sold to is now important. We as people have changed. People mentally have changed. Technologies come in, we expect things to be delivered to us. We're reticent maybe in meeting people. And there's a lot of sales myths that have been traditionally around anyway. So I thought we'd get a current, up-to-date, post-COVID or just finishing COVID, a take on sales and how we as human beings, and it's interesting the way you do talk about trust, how we look at sales. So, Ari, thank you for joining us from down under. I know you're a much-traveled global person, so perhaps you could tell me and the audience what brought you into the arena of sales.
Sure. So not to confuse those who hear my accent. When you hear the accent, you're probably saying to yourself, he's not from Australia. So I'm from the U.S. I'm from the U.S. originally, from California. I met my wife on a dating site 20 years ago, pre-swiping, and we connected, found love. I came to Australia. We got married in Sydney. And I've been here now for up to about 20 years so far. So that's the story of how I got to Sydney. But in terms of story behind trust-based selling, the experience that happened 20 years ago that triggered this whole mindset shift for me. And I'll share the story now, and hopefully listeners will resonate with this. I used to be a sales manager in a software company. We launched the first online website tracking tools. I had underneath me 18 salespeople, and now it's called Google Analytics, where you capture the data of website behavior. But back then, it was a new product. Internet was taking off, and my job was to take care of the big opportunities. And this one company called her from our website. I got the phone call. We had a conversation. It was a really big company, and they had lots of websites. And if I close this one sale, it would double the revenue in one transaction. That's how big it was. So the gentleman agreed to a conference call and a demo to see our product, and they finally came Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was in the conference room with my CEO, a closed door behind me, big long conference table. In the middle of the table is the old school speakerphones, the black ones with 3 legs on them, like Star Trek speakerphones. So I hit the dial tone number, and I dialed his number, and the phone rang. He picks it up, and he says, "Hi, Ari, how's it going?" I said, "Great, good to talk to you again." And he says to me, "Ari, let us tell you who's with us in the room today." I said, "Oh, great. I didn't know there'd be someone else there." Next thing I hear is, "My name's Mike. I'm CEO." I was like, "Oh, this is a good person to have there." "My name's Chris. I'm head of global IT." This is even better. "My name's Julie. I'm head of marketing." Amazing. I mean, everybody on this call was a decision maker. They were all there at one time. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen today. So I introduced myself, described what we do, and we all logged in, and I gave them a live demo of our product in real time and showed them what it looks like to gather all their information on their websites. And I showed them one example. And I started showing this to them, clicking around, and I started hearing this noise on the phone call, like, "Wow, this is great. This is amazing. This is fantastic." They started asking me all kinds of questions. How does it work? How do we install it? How does technology work? Of course, I had all the answers. I was competent. I was friendly. Building relationships. I was doing everything I was taught to do by the sales gurus and the books at home and the CDs in my car. I studied it so much. And there was so much chemistry on this phone call. It was like a love fest on the phone. You know what I'm talking about? Like, there's just so much chemistry, no resistance. It was like, this was going to happen today. So an hour goes by, call was fantastic. Call comes to a close. And my contact says to me, "Ari, this is great. We love it. Give us a call a couple weeks, follow up with us, and we'll move this thing forward." I said to myself, "Oh, thank you." I was so happy. And I said my goodbyes, and I took my hand to reach for the speakerphone at the off button. As I'm reaching for the off button, by complete accident, I hit the mute button instead of the off button. They were right next to each other. And I clicked the wrong button. A small click happened, and they thought I hung up the phone. In that split second, a voice inside of me says, Ari, go to the dark side. Be a fly in the wall. Go where no one's ever gone before in the world of sales. So I pulled my thumb back for a couple of seconds. They started talking amongst themselves, thinking I had left the call.
Yeah.
And I listened in. Now, this is not a trick question, but what would you imagine they would have said after a call like that? What would you expect them to say?
Well, either they'll say it was fantastic and the guy was really good and we really should take this forward, or we'll listen to it or we'll think about it, or we'll reject it. So either yes, or we'll think about it, or we'll reject it. It's one of those three.
Well, you'd expect reasonable things given they had an amazing call with me.
Yeah, you would expect them to go with it. Yeah, you'd expect them to go with the first one, 100%.
But let me share with you what I heard verbatim, word for word. I'll never forget it. That's why we're here today. What they said was this. They said, we're not going to go with him. Keep using him for more information.
Keep using him.
And make sure we shop someplace else cheaper. Knife in heart twist. I was in a state of shock. I couldn't believe it. I snapped out of it, hit the off button, looked at the wall, and said to myself, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I was competent. I was professional. I answered all their questions. I did everything I was taught to do by the sales books and the sales trainers all over the world. And the first big epiphany hit me, that was this, that somewhere along the way, it has become socially acceptable not to tell the truth to people who sell, right? Yeah. It's okay to say things like, sounds good, send me information, we're definitely interested, send me a proposal, without any intention of moving forward. Then I asked myself, why were they afraid to tell me the truth? Why do they have to take me through the game like that and use me that way? And I realized the reason why is there is an invisible river of pressure that flows underneath every sales chat you have with a potential client. Now, you can't see it and they can't see it, but they can feel it. And unless you become aware and have the skills to know how to pull pressure out of the conversation, then without doing that, you can't build trust with people. And what I realized was this: there has to be a mindset shift away from the end goal of the sale, but instead to build deep trust with people. Deep trust is where you build what I call a bubble of vulnerability, where they feel comfortable opening up to you and telling you the truth of where you stand, so you don't chase people anymore and degrade yourself and play the numbers game. That became a whole premise behind our Unlock the Sales Game revolution 20 years ago, which is now taking off more than ever.
Well, it's interesting what you talked about with the trust there. I mean, firstly, I don't know how you felt about them using you. I mean, you must have been. I mean, it's worse. It's bad enough they were misleading you, but actually, the fact they didn't have any intention and just were using you. I mean, I don't know how you would even handle that. I mean, it's so different, and we do, and we're all used there now. Just talking about trust there. They were saying, they were giving you all the right signals that they were trusting you. They were giving you all the right signals. So that makes it really, really difficult to know when they trust. How do you know they trust you?
That's what I realized, that my goal no longer can to be the sale anymore. It can't be my goal. The goal instead has to change. The definition of selling has to change. Where the goal is not to sell anymore, the goal is to get to the truth of whether you're fit or not with them, not the sale. That's a major mindset shift in the whole industry. It's so trained and conditioned to go toward the end goal only. It changes everything when you make that shift. We'll talk about that today.
Yeah, because you talk about, and I'm slightly jumping, you talked about the ABC, always be closing. So could it be that people who sell, because they go for the jugular and go for the close now, in fact, they don't understand the word trust at all, which is what you're saying is the major, major mistake?
Well, look, they may be trustworthy, but they do not know how to create deep trust with people. Creating deep trust with people in a sales context is a new skill. And this is not relationship building. Let me separate this now. Relationship building and trust building are mutually exclusive. Okay. People say, oh, I'm good at relationship building. I don't push people. I become their friend first. They get to know me first.
Yeah.
That's a waste of time. What I tell my clients is build relationships with people after they're a client, not before they're a client. They know it's fake anyways. It's not real. Hi, how's it going? Nice to meet you. They don't want to become your friend.
Yeah.
All they want to do is trust you to solve their problem. It's like a doctor-patient relationship. When you go see a doctor, they do not try and get you to like them. What they say is, where does it hurt? And you say, right over here. He says, let me take a look. Over here, oh, wow. I think we got an X-ray and an MRI to take a look at that to make sure we understand where the problem is. Then we can understand how to solve it. See, in sales, we're taught to do the opposite. We're taught to get them to like us first. And hopefully if they like us, well, then they might buy from us. Well, good luck with that, because post-COVID, people don't have the patience for the fake rapport building anymore. And they know it's not authentic anyways.
Interesting take. I love and I've never thought of that. I love the split between trust and relationship. I'll be honest, I've never come across that, because the general thing around networking, meeting people, is get them to like you. And once they like you, you then move on to the next step. But you're absolutely right. If you trust someone, you completely trust them to deliver what you want. Actually, relationships neither here or there. It's
they don't have to like you to trust you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should be cold and aloof. You can still have bedside manner and be your warm self, but I'm suggesting that I'm giving you permission to stop trying to build a relationship with someone in your sales conversations, because they know it's not authentic, because they know you have a hidden agenda, the agenda to move them towards your sale.
Okay, so let's move on to the 3 sales myths. And by the way, I'll finish with one comment on that really great insight is you can like someone a lot, but you may also know they can't deliver. So correct. That's where the likability goes. You know, I have a range of really good friends. Would I ever do business with them? Perhaps not. And maybe, Ari, it's what you're saying, I don't really trust them to deliver. And so I think that's a fantastic insight. So moving again back to your book, you talk about, and the book is called Unlock the Sales Game. Really is worth reading. Fantastic. And it's nice and straight to the point. You talk about the 3 sales myths. So perhaps for those who haven't read it, what would be those 3 sales myths?
Sure. So to create some transformation here, I've got to work on cleaning out the mental hard drive that we've been collecting. There's old messages from over the years from the sales exposure we've had. And to do that, we have to address 3 main myths around selling. The first one's a common one, and that is that sales is supposed to be a numbers game. The more contacts you make, the more results you get. Well, we discover in this economy now, it's not about how many contacts you make anymore. It's about how deep you go on each conversation, how good you are at trust building, not how good you are, how many contacts you make. That's a complete opposite of how most companies run their business. Number 2 is the idea that the sale is lost at the end of the process, at the closing spot. You know how you had a deal pending, it looks really good, all green light everywhere, at the end it just drops out, and you're like, what happened? We did all the homework, it all was perfect. Why they drop? Why we lose them at the end? Well, it turns out the sale is not lost anymore at the end of the process. It's now lost at the beginning, at hello. I'll prove it to you right now in a fun way. If someone calls your office tomorrow morning and you pick up the phone and you hear, hi, my name is, I'm with, we are a, what goes through your mind about 3 seconds?
I normally say, I'm really busy at the moment. Can you try me some other time? Because I know what's coming. I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
Your guard goes up.
Yeah.
Your trust shuts down, and it's over at hello. And I'm not suggesting that your listeners are all doing outbound calls, but I will make the case today that most of your listeners are losing their opportunities not at the end of the process. They're losing it way at the beginning, because they aren't building trust from hello. That's the second one. The last one's a big one. The idea that rejection is part of the sales process, where you have to get out there and take a no, be tough, thick-skinned. If you can't take more no's, you won't get yeses. Well, guess what we discovered? We discovered that rejection is triggered by certain things you say and do unconsciously that cause the other person to put their guard up and push back on you. And I'll share some of those today as well.
And just, I don't want to jump again, but how did you handle rejection? I mean, that's why people hate selling, don't they? They hate selling, and that's why. I mean, some people, I think, I've met a couple of people who love rejecting people, who just love it. It's part of it's the power game. So how do you, and I know we're going to go through how you can avoid getting into rejection, but can you train someone to or is that what makes a great salesman from a poor one? Poor one gives up and walks away.
We train them not to trigger rejection ever again. If there's rejection happening, it's not the prospect's fault. It's your fault for causing it to happen, because something you did caused them to react to defend themselves from you.
Interesting.
This is about self-responsibility. This is about looking at yourself and saying to myself, what is my sales team doing right now that's causing us to chase ghosts, chase people who aren't calling us back? What are we doing wrong? It's not the market, not the product, not the price. It's our approach that's outdated and it's causing the problem.
Ari, most people do the reverse of what you've just said. So I've seen people blame products. I've seen people blame pricing. I've seen people blame the wrong prospect list and said, I've just got the wrong people in front of me. And rarely do I hear what you've just said, where they say, what did I do wrong? I mean, just picking up your early point about numbers, I had a guy who worked for me who proudly told me after a week that he had 1,000 people on LinkedIn and he just connected with them. I couldn't understand this rationale behind that, but for him, it was a numbers game. So he's now saying, look, I know 1,000 people, but yeah, nothing to do with it. And another one I remembered mentioned the product wasn't what the market wanted. So all I always tend to hear is deflection. So that's an interesting, another really interesting insight. So moving on to, again, the book, you have two really core principles on how to unlock the game, the approach. Again, what would be those two core principles?
So one of the core principles is the idea of always be diffusing pressure, taking pressure out of the conversation to allow trust to emerge. Let me give you an example of this. So we designed, developed our own proprietary, what we call trust-based languaging, not scripts, but phrases that elicit trust inside the conversation. Let me give you an example of this. Let's say you're having a first call with somebody over the phone or Zoom. Good chemistry, good conversation, could be a good fit. Call kind of comes to a close. Normally in sales, what do we do at the end of a call like that? We say things like, how about we move forward, have a cup of coffee, get together, a next step. We are conditioned to move people forward to a next step towards the sale. But what can happen if you attempt to move them forward and they aren't ready yet? What do you break with them very early on in your process? You break trust, right? So same scenario, our mindset and our languaging. Call is going well, good chemistry, could be a good fit. Call comes to a close. Rather than saying, hey, how about we move forward? What we say instead is this. We say, where do you think we should go from here? And I'll say it again. Where do you think we should go from here?
Yeah, that's good.
Now, how does that change? Yeah.
But Ari, sorry to interrupt. Now, I get a lot of phone calls on my mobile phone. I'm driving, and what you said is completely the point. So they start, they just about get me to say my name, and then they're off, and they speak for a good minute, and that's whether it's on the phone. I've seen it face to face. You go to an event, somebody comes up to you, hello, Ninder, how are you? And then they're off. I haven't asked them anything. And they speak for about a minute without taking a breath. So what I'm shocked about, Ari, is it's still happening today. This avalanche of a script, and it just comes at you. And rarely do I have someone say what you just said, which is, "Can we take this forward?"
Where do you think we should
Yeah,
go from here?
yeah,
When you tell someone that, what happens is, first of all, they're usually in a state of shock.
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
can't
There would be.
believe
Yeah,
somebody would ask them what they want to do. They're so used to being pulled down a sales process, they know it a mile away. So when you say to somebody, where do you think we should go from here? They usually say things like, I've got one more question. What about this? You know, it comes out the truth.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
is your only goal. Your goal is to build enough trust with them so they open up to you and tell you where they stand. So you're not chasing ghosts anymore who you think are going to buy and never will.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have and again, I think you have to look at the other side as well, which is we need to train people to say, I'm talking about your conference call at the start. I think we have to train people to say, it's not for me. I think at the same time as well, and it's not dragging people along. And I get straight to the point when somebody, and I get quite a few unsolicited emails, and I do reply to all of them, and I say, sorry, not interested, job done. And interestingly, I think they respect you more for that because you've been straight with them, and it also means an opportunity might come further down the track. So I think absolutely. And the second core principle, so the first one is
The
I love
second
that.
one is the idea of what I call getting to the truth with your prospects. Now, what that means is having them feel comfortable opening up to you and telling you exactly where you stand in your process. Let me give you an example of this. I recently had a call that came to my office, got through my team, and got to me. And I picked the phone up and I heard Mr. Galper. I said, yes. He says, my name is John Johnson. I said, change the name. I'm with XYZ company, big global company. And he says to me, we're looking to bring in someone to change our sales culture and our performance. We're looking at you and a few other people. We'd like to know, first of all, Mr. Galper, why should we go with you? Why are you the best? And give me your best sales pitch.
Whoa, whoa! This I've got to hear. Go. It's over to you now. Then
He says this to me.
Yeah.
So I took a deep breath.
Yeah.
I got centered in my mindset. I relaxed. And I began to say this to him. What I said was this. I said, well, isn't that interesting? And I paused for a few minutes. I let it breathe.
Yeah.
And then I said to him, over here at our company, we have a very similar process to you where we ask some questions, gather information to see if we're a good fit. And if we're a good fit, we decide where to go from there. And I said to him, would you be open to that? That's all I said to him. And then nothing on the phone. It was like I couldn't hear it. Then I could feel the breath, like he breathed across, like a breath of relief. He lowers his shoulders. He lowers his voice, and he says to me, "Okay, what kind of questions do you have for me?" And next thing I know, within 5 minutes, I discover 1, he's not a decision maker. 2, he has no budget. And 3, he's just curious as to what I do. And off he went to YouTube for some videos to look at my stuff. I hung up the phone about 5 minutes later. Now, what did my process just save me months of?
You got, well, just by simply questioning him, you were able to establish all those things which stopped you wasting your time further down the track, I would have thought, where he would ultimately say, can't do anything.
I was able to get to the truth at the beginning. And I'd have to chase him, pursue him. There's actually this drug and it's in our bodies and it's triggered with inbound calls like that. You know what the drug is called? It's called hopium. You know the hopium drug? You're so excited. Oh, I got the call. I'm so excited. And you call them back, you follow up with them, and you get their voicemail. You're like, he's not there. Then you go to your computer and you open your email up and you write an email and it says, hi, I'm just writing you to what? To follow up Now I'm going to ask you and your listeners to remove one key phrase forever from a vocabulary as of today, post Ari, and never use it ever again. And here it comes. Never again use the phrase follow-up ever again in a sales context. What's the only industry in the world that uses the word follow-up?
Yeah.
Who does that? I'm calling a follow-up. Who says that? Salespeople, the stereotype everybody hates. There's a few more classic ones. Remember the older ones? Touching base, checking in, how's it going? Any questions? Those were all 1980s still languaging, still caught up in the game. And the minute they hear that from you, it's over. They know you're chasing them. You've broken trust right there. So what we have done is we have a whole language that replaces all the old languaging that's breaking trust. And here's what you say instead of follow-up. You say this, you say, I'm giving you a call to see if you have any feedback on our previous conversation, any feedback on our last meeting, any feedback on a proposal. Feedback's going where? Backwards, away from the sale, not towards the sale. The goal is to move away from the end goal. That removes the pressure, which now opens up the trust.
Interesting.
Look, I will let you know, this is very contrarian thinking, and I know that most people will have a hard time admitting that they're stuck in that old premise of following up, chasing people in the numbers game, because it's hard to let go of that. But once you release yourself from that old conditioning and you realize the world has changed rapidly and they know the game, the market knows those games, unless you can get to a level of authenticity with people and focus at the doctor relationship level, you're going to have a hard time struggling growing your company.
A couple of things there, just picking that up. I know exactly what you're saying, but people are under pressure from their sales manager, and you've been a sales manager, who's saying, what's the numbers look like and how you're converting and when did you last speak to them, and you've got to keep at it, you got to keep persisting, don't take a no, just keep going. So that's what we've been trained to do. That's what people have, in organization, it's the, just keep going, the Wall Street thing, just keep going and don't give up, chase them. And of course, the more you do that,
don't be a wimp.
Yeah, and of course, the more you do that, Ari, the more people are going to lose that trust that you're talking about, because it then becomes apparent you are chasing hard. So is it something that's going to be, people at the very top have got to be taught this, that this, this is about trust now, this is not about numbers, because the numbers will take care of themselves. So is the problem.
Ironically, the irony of all of this is the more you focus on trust building and the less you focus on chasing the numbers, the more you double your results. Because what happens is most companies measure how much they're making. They don't measure how much they're losing because of their sales approach. They don't want to measure that. It's too scary to measure that. But that's where all the money's on the table. It's 80-20 principle. 20% of the sales they're making, 80% of the time is wasted chasing ghosts who aren't going to buy at the end. They have a big pipeline, but low conversions. Why? Because their management has taught them to fill everything up, to have so much activity in order to show people that they're being busy, but the conversion rate's low.
You speak about, it was on sort of page 65, and then we'll move on to a couple of other things. You talked about the need for humility. So perhaps you can explain how that sits in the whole trust factor, having that humility.
For sure. So I got that from my son. When my son was born, after about a couple of days after he was born, his name is Toby, we were told that he had Down syndrome. Right. And at first, we didn't know what that meant to our lives, but we realized we had a gift on our hands. And I wrote a book about him called Lessons from Toby. And if you know someone who has Down syndrome, you know they're beautiful people. They're transparent, they're open, they have no hidden agenda, they're gorgeous, beautiful, full of love. And I realized he's the role model. He lives in the moment. He's authentic. He focuses on people's problems. He does not think about his goal and himself. We're the ones who have to work towards being like him. And the more humble you are like him, the more you can show people you care about people, the more they can't help but to gravitate towards you. We've lost the art of being humble and letting go of our own goal in order to walk into someone else's world to focus in on their problem. We're so solution-centric that we lost touch with being problem-centric around the client's problem. And I tell my clients, I say, fall out of love with your solution and fall in love with your client's problems.
Interesting. It's true. It's true. You've got to see it from the other side. And as I said, it always seems to be driven by top. What about trust in this new social media sort of environment we work on? How does that fit in with trust? Can that destroy or enhance the way people trust you?
Social media and electronic channels are just a different medium. But the problem is people are still using the same approach in a different medium. It's nothing unique about the medium. Look at LinkedIn right now. Look at your inbox in there. What do you see in there? Spam, people email, sending you messages you don't even know, wishing you happy birthday, you don't even know who you are. It's the same sales approach from the 80s being pushed through the new channels of the 2022. People haven't changed their thinking, even though channels have changed. So to get results in this economy now, you have to change your thinking, your approach to match psychology of where the buyers are today.
Why is it, Ari, that we're happy to build relationships and trust with people we don't sell to, but we hate selling? So in other words, we find it quite natural to do it. You know, we're building a trust. We've got nothing to. But if I had to sell to you tomorrow, suddenly the whole dynamics changes. So why is it easy to find trust?
It's really easy and natural when you don't have a hidden agenda. When you're selling the old way, you have a hidden agenda. That's why people hate selling, because they can't be authentic, because they're trying to be nice to the prospect, but in the back of their mind, they're saying to themselves, "Ooh, I hope he buys. Ooh, he's qualified. I hope it goes." See, we're already stirring ourselves up over here. We're not being present 100%. And they can tell right away when you're not actually being present with them 100%. You got to let go of that voice saying, "Ooh, an opportunity. I got to move them forward." You're killing your trust right there.
But if I go back to my premise that it's a long term, you build trust over a long term. Again, I think we need to reorientate, particularly the people at the top, is that trust, that's the word you keep using, trust, requires patience. The best people you trust are the people you have patience and you build that trust. So is it therefore then we have to split the need for trust and not the need for trust, depending on the value of the ticket item? So the bigger the ticket item, it's expected it takes longer to trust, and therefore it's expected to take longer.
Well, I'll challenge you in terms of length of time.
Okay.
Because we're conditioned to believe that long sales cycles are required in a high, low volume, high price point business model.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the condition that we believe is true. I'm working on a new book coming out this year called The One Call Sale.
Wow.
That compresses sales cycle for multiple steps and months of time down to one single conversation. You don't need time to build trust with people. You need focus and a mindset shift.
Well, I'm going to order that book straight away. Okay. So how's COVID, do you think, how's COVID changed the word trust? How's the way we now interact with people, the way it's all changing, and hopefully we'll go back to where we were, but has that changed the sales process? Has COVID changed the sales process?
There's no doubt about that. The psychology of the buyer's mind in the last couple of years has absolutely shifted, but our sales approaches have not. It's like two ships in the night passing each other. And we're wondering why it's so hard to make sales now for a lot of people, but not my clients. See, my clients understand your goal is to connect with your ideal client around the depths of their problems, what I call it, going down the iceberg with them, where they feel this moment where they feel like they say to themselves, he just understands me. He gets me. He understands my problem. See, what happens in sales is when we hear them describe their problem to us, our instinct is to say to ourselves, ooh, I can help them. They're a good fit. Let me move them forward towards the solution. That's where you break trust. See, we don't move our clients forward. We move them down. Down what I call the iceberg, to amplify, unpack, peel back the onion behind their business, their problems, and help them understand the gravity of it, the ROI behind it. Then we ask this question. We say, is this a priority for you to solve once and for all? Or is it something you have to live with long-term and let it go for now? And I'm okay either way. The responsibility is on them to own their problem, not on us to sell the solution. It's like a therapist and a patient. If the patient doesn't own their own problem, they're the worst patients because they won't change. There's a theme here, as you can see. There's a theme
yeah.
And the theme is self-ownership and willingness to change ourselves.
So back to you trying to establish that trust. So are you really saying that it's best to let the person who's establishing that trust with you simply to give you the buying signal rather than you asking for the order all the time? Because that's what people are trained to do. Ask for the order. Did you ask for the order? Did you ask for the order? That's how people are trained.
If you have to ask for the order,
yeah,
that means you did not build enough trust with them.
So you wait for them as a patient would to say, I want to buy.
Doctor-patient relationship. You diagnose the problem, you do an X-ray on the problem, you help them identify the impact of it, and you say, where would you like to go from here?
Do you remember that conference call you made at the start?
Yes.
So 20 years on, something like that, isn't it? How would you handle that differently? How would you?
Good question. People always ask me that. What would I do 20 years back if I knew what I knew now on that conference call? Thank you for that. So the answer is this. I never would have had the conference call.
Oh,
because
okay.
on the first call with that gentleman, I would have got to the truth with him and know where he stood. But then again, that experience got me here.
And we've got about another 3 or 4 minutes. Just a couple of last quick questions. How can you create? I mean, that's quite a different way of thinking. The way you've been speaking. How do you get an entire organization to think like that? I mean, it's quite a deep way of thinking, rather than the traditional pack them all off to a training course and they're taught. They come back, so part of the organization's order takers, if that makes sense, and the rest are completely oblivious. How do you get everybody to work on trust and to? I mean, it's quite a.
We're doing it right now all over the world. We have European clients, we have American clients, companies, sales teams that we're transforming within 90 days. 90 days, they can make a complete transformation, double their conversion rate, and stop chasing ghosts and transform the entire organization in a very short amount of time, as long as upper management is open to making the change.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? That's the key. We've now only got a couple of minutes. What's the big idea now looking forward, post-COVID, that you'll leave the audience with? And just before you answer that, we've spoken about humility, we've spoken about trust, We've spoken about not taking orders, not pushing for orders, the first phone call. We've talked about sales myths, and we've talked about short-term, long-term, not the numbers game. So with all of that in mind, what's the big idea that you want to leave the audience with in 2022?
Here it is. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Stop selling and build trust instead.
Simple. That's quite a mind shift still.
Complexity equals fear. Simplicity equals trust. And when you make things simple for people and help them see their approach and help them understand, think about it for a second. Here's the way summary. Your market's got a problem. You got the solution. Straight line of sight, right? No friction. Now, what gets in the middle of that? Us. We somehow fumble the ball. And we wonder, why aren't we converting these people? They're our ideal clients. They're in our market. They answer ads. They're calling us. They're inbound leads. And what do the people do? They go, oh, we need more leads. Need more leads? Are you kidding me? You're breaking the leads you have already. So all I'm suggesting today is, I know I gave a lot of unique, different ideas, but all I'm suggesting is if you want to succeed in the future, you have to be willing to address where you're at right now.
It's been fascinating, actually. It's been fascinating. It's a complete twist on what normally people do. So not am I only going to be on the waiting list for your book, but I'm going to drop you a call when that book comes out, because I think that's fascinating. One call and not dragged out months. The one call sale.
Once.
Amazing. Well, look, Ari, thank you for taking time out. It's been fascinating speaking to you, and I look forward to your book, the next one, and I look forward to having another conversation around what I think will be fantastic insights into the world of selling, but importantly, building trust. I might be needing to buy a car soon. I'm going to check out how much trust he builds with me. Thank you, Ari. Have a great day. Oh, it's an evening. Sorry, it's daytime here. Evening.
No worries. And if anybody wants to pick up a copy of my book, just go to unlockthegame.com. You get a copy there. And on LinkedIn, I'm accessible as well. I do a show once a month called Stump the Guru, where you can jump on live, ask me a question, and try and challenge me as well. So LinkedIn or unlockthegame.com to get more.
Perfect. Wonderful. So now you know where to find Ari. And thank you very much again for taking time out. Great book. Look forward to the next one. Cheers, Ari.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.